Box office: the Emoji Movie nabs $26 million weekend. Atomic Blonde scores $19 million. Yes, the Emoji Movie earned $25.65 million on its opening weekend, and no, the world's not going to end as a result. I was amused to see how folks looked at this weekend as a battle between Emoji Movie and Dunkirk. It would be one thing if Dunkirk and Emoji Movie opened head-to-head and Emoji Movie won. The whole rank doesn't matter thing notwithstanding, that would feel like a moral blow, but the Emoji Movie, in its first weekend, made about as much as Dunkirk did after 7 prior days of play. That's a pretty huge distinction. Sony and Columbia's $50 million budgeted tune, which was based on How does one classify what the Emoji Movie is based upon anyway? It's not a movie, TV show, book, play, video game, theme park ride or historical event. The irony is that, since emojis are just emojis, director and co-writer Tony Leondas has technically crafted a wholly original story that at least tries to be a parable for LGBT kids coming out of the closet. The reviews were beyond vicious, and I think the nation's critics need to stop declaring every somewhat lousy movie as the worst movie ever. Despite 3 fresh reviews out of 36 total and a 2/10 average critics score on Rotten Tomatoes, the Emoji Movie, the industry can stop blaming Rotten Tomatoes every time a bad film underperforms, since the aggregate review site didn't turn War Apes into a mega hit, nor did it turn the Emoji Movie into a flop. See what they want to see. Kids this weekend thought that Sony's animated adventure looked colorful and fun, while their parents either agreed or merely wanted 2 hours in an air-conditioned theater toward the end of summer. For what it's worth, it's the biggest opening of the year for an original animated film. The film received a B from the CinemaScore, which is awful for a kid-targeted tune, and that 2.56x weekend multiplier isn't great for a non-Pixar/Illumination tune. But there isn't much kid competition for a while. Unless the nut job 2 clicks next month, Emoji is it for animated films until the Lego Ninjago movie in late September. If it plays like the Smurfs, $35 million opening / $142 domestic total, then we're looking at a $102 million domestic total. If it plays like the Angry Birds movie, $38 / $103 or the Smurfs 2, $27 million wed to Sun. / $71 domestic total, then it's a $65 $68 finish for the Emoji Movie. But either way, life goes on. I will admit to being a little disappointed with Atomic Blonde this weekend, with the huge caveat that there is a difference between the movie underperformed and Scott Mendelson hoped it would open bigger. Atomic Blonde earned $18.5 million over the weekend, which is on the lowest end of realistic projections. The Focus features and Sierra, Affinity actioner stars Charlize Theron as an ass-kicking MI6 agent doing a job in Berlin right as the Berlin Wall is coming down, and it premiered to mostly positive press at this year's SXSW Festival. Angelina Jolie's Salt opened on this weekend in 2010 with a $36 million debut weekend, and Scarlett Johansson's Lucy debuted with $43 million 3 years ago on this weekend. Salt was PG-13. Was a much bigger scale picture and was 7 years ago, well before Netflix and chill became a thing. Lucy was a sci-fi head trip with a cool premise. Johansson becomes a superhero after ingesting a brain enhancement drug, and a lot of free press. Nonetheless, Atomic Blonde is a stark example example of the whole. Not as many folks go to the movies as they used to, thing that the industry has been dealing with for the last few years. Atomic Blonde only cost $30 million, which is why it's an arguable win, even as I note that it sold about the same number of tickets as The Long Kiss Goodnight, a $9 million opening in 1996, and Aeon Flux, a $12 million opening in 2005. The reviews have been positive without being euphoric, 77% fresh with an average 6.6 score on Rotten Tomatoes, with much of the praise heaped on Theron's starring turn and a second act sequence that is one of the very best fight scenes ever offered in an American action movie. Universal Comcast Corporation partnered with Focus on the marketing once it looked like it might really break out. For what it's worth, Focus's biggest opening weekend ever remains Insidious Chapter 3 with $22 million, followed by London Has Fallen, $21 million, and Burn After Reading, $19 million back in 2008. So as much as I wanted to see the David Leitch-directed actioner make back its budget over the opening weekend, that's not necessarily the bar for success. This is a situation where the number is fine, but I'm disappointed that it merely did about as well as projected. I wanted to write about another Lucy-ish blowout this weekend, but that's on me, not Atomic Blonde. If it plays like Lucy or the two John Wick movies, it'll get $2.50–$2.56 million domestic. A run closer to Salt, $36M/$118M, gets Atomic Blonde to $60 million domestic. And if I can raise the flags for the $30 million John Wick opening at $14 million when it was projected to open at around $7 million, I'm not going to be too down on Atomic Blonde playing closer to John Wick, $43 million domestic, than John Wick, Chapter 2, $92 million domestic. Still, it's a pretty solid action movie, and you say you want ass-kicking actresses on screen. You can't just see Wonder Woman and consider your job done for the year. There were two big platform openers this weekend, Catherine Bigelow's Detroit, which details the infamous murders that took place at the Algiers Hotel in 1967, opened in 20 theaters and 10 major cities in advance of its wide release next weekend. The well-reviewed drama, the first domestic distribution from Annapurna Pictures, which stars the likes of Will Poulter, Anthony Mackie and John Boyega, earned around $365,000 on its first weekend for a $18,000 per location average. That's a fine start for a film that will be something of a commercial challenge. It's very good, but it's a very tough sit. If it ends up in the Oscar race, that's a whole different conversation. In other happy joy options, Paramount, Viacom Incorporated, and Participant debuted an Inconvenient sequel, Truth to Power, in 4 theaters this week in advance of its wide release next weekend. The Al Gore-produced documentary, which details what has and hasn't happened regarding climate change since An Inconvenient Truth back in 2006, earned around $130,000 over the weekend for a decent $32,500 per location average. That's a kinda terrible 2.13x weekend multiplier, meaning that folks who wanted to see it showed up on Friday. An Inconvenient Truth earned $491,000 in 4 theaters over a 6-day Memorial Day opening back in 2006, but that was a different time when we thought activist movies, or Facts and Logic, could change hearts and minds or play to the unconverted.